Good evening. Welcome to the Relationship Reboot Masterclass. When was the last time someone made you angry or cry or laugh? And what's really going on when we think like this? My name's Naomi Stonier, and for the next hour, I'm going to be sharing tools and techniques to help keep you in the driving seat in your relationships. First of all, I'm going to share a little bit with you about how I came to be doing what I'm doing. My family life was dysfunctional. I left school at 15 with no qualifications. I couldn't hold down a job, and I was friends with all the wrong people. I made some positive changes aged 25. I got myself back into school and got myself a degree. And it was here that I met the person who, thanks to relationship coaching, is still my partner today. But another life event was coming my way, because one way or another, right, this stuff is coming for us. And for me, it was infertility. It is hard to describe the desperation that I felt at the possibility that I may not be able to have children. My life blueprint, and we all have one, was to have a big family. A big family meant I would always get love. I would always be needed. It meant I wouldn't be repeating my experience. And so even after we were lucky enough to have a beautiful daughter, I was desperate for more. And this turned into an obsession, one that nearly broke us emotionally, physically, financially. And this turned into be my gift, because not getting what I so desperately wanted forced me to take a look at how I was meeting my needs, how I was showing up in my relationships. Relationship coaching taught me how I was creating my experience and why I was going to certain places again and again, even when it didn't feel good. And relationship coaching taught me how to stop doing this. So for this session, I am going to be walking you through how we create our emotions, why we go to certain emotional states, certain behaviors again and again, even when it doesn't serve us, even when it harms us. And I'm going to show you how it's possible to choose what you want to think and feel. So, emotions are something that we do. Yeah, we are taught that emotions are pre-programmed. We are taught that emotions are outside of us, and this isn't true. We create our emotions. Emotions are something we do. How? How do we do it? Your emotions are made up of three things: your focus, your language, and your physiology. What are you focusing on? What do you believe? What do you think? When we focus on something outside of our control, it's the safest place to be, because we can't change it, can we? Regretting the past, fearing the future, even when it's painful, is safer than being in the present. Much scarier being in the present, where we can actually make some changes. What language are you using? We are silently talking to ourselves. And when we've been doing it for years, it will be entirely unconscious. What are you silently saying to yourself? I'm so stupid. I always get it wrong. I will never be happy. Yeah, what's whizzing past? Yeah. Words. I must, I have to, I've got to, I need to. These words create emotions. They create stories. They create a narrative. We are choosing in every moment. We are making a choice. Okay. Your physiology. What are you doing with your body? You hold your body differently when you're happy to when you are sad. We put these three things together and we create a pattern, and we run that pattern again and again until it just feels normal. So when I work with my clients and we first start down this road of how are you creating the emotion, people have no idea. We have no idea how we're doing this. These patterns, when we've been running them for years, they are lightning quick. They happen in the moment. But in the moment, you don't know, you're just there, aren't you? Okay, it makes sense on paper right now, but in the moment, it just happens. Okay, so we work on awareness. That's it, becoming aware. Awareness and understanding. So much easier than I must stop, I must change, or they must stop, they must change. Becoming super aware in the moment is how you understand. Focus, physiology, language, in the moment, focusing on those three things. I'm going to give you an example. Examples always help, don't they? The weather. Yeah, the brain wants to take you to the biggest thing in your life, but we start small. Start with something easy, like the weather. Very curious, isn't it? How we believe the weather can determine our emotions. The weather is completely outside of our control. We can't change it. We have no power over it. And we believe it's creating our emotions. So a client I worked with had a lot of thoughts and beliefs around winter. And that was winter was no good for her. Winter was a problem for her. And when you live in a country like the UK, which has a long winter, you know, for a long period of time, 6 months of the year, we're in darkness, we have short days. So if you can imagine, you have a belief that winter is a problem for you, how much of the year you're setting up to be a period of time in your life that you find difficult. You know, take in the impact of this. So how did we uncover how she was creating her experience of winter? First of all, her focus. She had a belief. Winter is difficult for me. I can't do winter. I struggle with winter. Okay. And so when we have a belief, our brain seeks evidence of that belief. It goes out and seeks evidence of that belief. So she could go to past experiences of difficult times in the winter as evidence. Winter's really difficult for me. Okay. But the brain not only seeks evidence of what it is you want to believe, it also seeks evidence. It disregards any evidence that doesn't fit with this belief. So I'm pretty sure she had difficult experiences in spring, summer, and autumn as well. Yeah, this is life, isn't it? But the brain disregarded those beliefs. And what is this belief? This belief is just a thought she had once upon a time that she turned into a fact. Yeah, and she presents it as a fact. Winter is very difficult for me. I struggle in the winter. It's a fact in her life. What was she doing with her language? What words was she using? Difficult, hard, scared, vulnerable. Yeah, these words will create emotion. Oh no, the winter is coming. When we think about Game of Thrones and we think about the Night Walkers, anyone who knows Game of Thrones, this is what the brain actually believes. It doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. Okay, that actually you're going to be in a heated home with food and light and enough, to shelter through the winter. And what was her physiology doing? Well, that sinking feeling. She didn't even have to be in winter to experience the emotion around winter. The thought of winter triggered the sinking feeling in her. And we understand what her body would do. She slumped into the fear. And this was the pattern she created using the belief, the language, and her physiology, that sinking feeling. And that created her experience of winter. I've got another example we can think of, and that was a client I worked with who had tech problems. She found the technology involved in starting a business really challenging, and it was causing a problem for her. It was preventing her from taking the steps she needed to take to build her business. And so how was she creating this experience? Her focus, the belief was, I'm no good at tech. Okay. And so the brain seeks evidence for this belief and disregards any evidence that doesn't fit with it. So she could find lots of evidence. I am no good at tech. This is a thought she had once upon a time that she's presenting as a fact that cannot be changed. What language was she using? I can't do it. I'm no good at it. And where did this spiral down to? I'm stupid. My business will never be a success. So a moment's frustration over a technical issue, which we have. If you have any technical device, you will experience technical issues. Okay, and so that would trigger the pattern for her. And the physiology was really quite striking for her, in that her body would flood with tension and she would lock up in front of her screen and just get stuck there as she spiraled all the way down the pattern from the technical problem to, I'm not going to be able to start a business. I'm never going to be a success. I'm stupid. I'm a failure. So this is how these little moments in the day spiral into, as you can imagine, the time and energy drain that occurs when we're running these patterns. You can imagine how a simple moment in the day was taking her out, maybe for an hour, maybe for an afternoon, maybe she just gave up and just didn't work again that day because of the way this pattern would spiral for her. So, understanding, becoming really super aware of the focus, physiology, and language. And then becoming really aware of when the pattern's triggered and breaking the pattern. So for my client, it was, oh, there I go. There's a little technical issue there. There's my body. Oh, I can feel myself seizing up here. Better step away, better shake it out, change my focus, put some different language in there. Yeah, to break the pattern, to nip it in the bud before we've gone all the way down to my business is a failure. I'm never going to get anywhere. So understanding how we're doing it, also coming into this. What do you want to feel? We're very clear about what we don't want to feel, aren't we? What is it that you want to feel? What is it that you're craving? This elusive feeling that you can't ever get there. So have a think about when you do experience it, what is it? The higher vibration emotions, the more resourceful and creative emotions of joy, happiness, peace, belief, courage. When do you feel these emotions? Have a think. When in the week do you feel them? Go back to a special memory if you haven't felt it for a while, if you're going through a bad patch. When did you feel this emotion? And what was going on? What was going on for you to feel it? You know, if we want to feel love from our partners or any loved one, when do you feel loved by them? When will you know that you're experiencing love from them? And name 3 things that need to happen. Just think to yourself now. These are your emotional rules. These rules, which we all have, determine which emotion we feel and how often we feel it. So it's super important for us to uncover these rules and see, are they serving us? Are they making it easy or hard for us to feel what we want to feel? And if you find this very difficult, if you just think, I have no idea, don't worry. Everybody finds this very difficult. And I'm going to give you a few examples because we have, with all of this stuff is unconscious. We are sponges soaking in our environment from day one. And we take these rules on, they're passed down to us. Okay, so much of this is entirely unconscious, and it's really worth your time to spend time on this. Don't just think, oh, I don't know, and move on. You know, the brain just wants you to move on. It doesn't want you to spend any time here. The brain wants you to stay doing what you're doing. It's the safest thing. It's what keeps you alive. So I'm going to give you a few examples to help get you thinking. A client craving peace. When we worked on it, she identified she felt peace when she was in nature. So that means she's in a busy office. That rule is going to make it harder for her to feel at peace in a hectic working environment. So we went on a journey to change that rule. You've got 2 options. Either you change your job and you go and work outside in the countryside, if that's your rule for feeling peace, or you change the rule and you decide how you're going to create peace and in an intense working environment. Yeah. Cleaning, tidy homes, and the rule we have around whether it means we're a good or a bad person, the level of cleanliness in our homes. Yeah, we can really make it mean that we are failing. The rule can be in there. If the house isn't tidy, I'm a bad person. Okay. And think about how that can affect our interactions and our experiences when we've got that kind of rule. For me, my favorite example is one of my own, and it was around my rules for love. And uncovering this rule, this one simple little rule changed everything for me. So I'm a tactile person. My love language is hugs and kisses. Now, the rule in there was that the hugs and kisses had to be unasked for. They had to be given spontaneously. You know, not a huge problem, apart from the fact that my husband is not a tactile person, not a naturally tactile person. His rule for feeling love is not hugs and kisses. So I frequently felt unloved in my relationship. Now, I would go and ask for a hug or a kiss. I would go and give a hug. But remember the rule, it had to be unasked for. So even though I got a hug, I didn't feel the love. And I would get upset. I would express frustration. And so you can imagine the kind of interactions that were going on. For my husband, he'd given me the hug I'd asked for. I still wasn't happy. It was very confusing for him. I would repeatedly tell him I don't feel loved, you don't hug me, you don't kiss me, you don't show affection. But because my communication was woven with shame and blame, I would shame him. There's something wrong with you, you're not tactile. My communication never landed. So it was when I uncovered the rule and I changed it. I just chose to change this rule. An asked for hug can be just as special as an unasked for hug. So I changed the rule and I went and got my hug and I felt love. And when my husband saw how happy it made me, my communication landed. So, oh, hugs make her happy. Okay, I'll give her more hugs. Because my communication came from my heart and it was coming from a loving place, a non-judgmental place. It was heard. And now I get hugs all the time. So these simple little rules can change everything. Now, if all you do is take these two things in your interactions, your day-to-day interactions with anyone and everybody, if all you do is pay attention to your focus, your language and your physiology, drop into your body. We live here cut off in our heads. Drop into your body. What's your body doing? Get super curious and start paying attention to what your rules are. Start paying attention. And when you pay attention to these three things, it will naturally uncover your rules. Yeah, because you'll see, oh, why did I react like that? What's going on? Apply the antidote of curiosity and you'll start to uncover. If that is all you do, practice and repeat those things, those two things, you will completely and utterly transform every relationship in your life. But there's one more thing that we want to pay attention to here, and that is, why do we go to these places and behaviors that don't feel good, that don't serve us, can even harm us? Why are we going to these places again and again? And this is a question you must ask yourself. If you have a problem you cannot solve, no matter how hard you try, you must ask yourself why. If you're going to something outside of you, I just want to put to you, other people cannot create your emotions. Your circumstances, your life circumstances, life events cannot create your emotions. Your job, where you live, the weather, the traffic, it cannot create your emotions. If you're saying, I know I shouldn't do this, but I can't stop, you have to get really curious and ask yourself why. And my answer to you would be, it's because it meets your needs. Okay, so I'm going to explain a really simple framework that you can use to understand what's going on in you and those around you. Okay, and I'm going to explain it to you now. According to human needs psychology, we are all driven by the need to fulfill basic human needs. Now, these are not just desires or wants, but profound needs that underpin every choice and decision we make. Okay, and these have been narrowed down to these 6, and I'm going to go through them for you now. The need for certainty, the need to know we can be safe, free from pain, free from danger, to know where the next meal is coming from, that you have shelter, a roof over your head. This is a basic human need. We must meet it to survive, but too much certainty and we get bored. So we go to the next need, the need for uncertainty. Now, it might make more sense if I say variety. We all say we like surprise, excitement, adventure. So many of us, we need things to be different. But the surprise that we don't like, we call problems. So certainty makes us feel reassured. It gives us reassurance. Uncertainty makes us feel alive. So one way or another, whatever it takes, we must experience variety and uncertainty. The nervous system, it cannot stay in one state permanently. The third need, the need for significance. We must know that we matter. We must feel needed. And if we don't feel this with our loved ones, we will go off and find it somewhere else. We will go to work. We will bury ourselves in work. Or maybe we'll look outside of the intimate relationship and we'll find someone who does make us feel significant. The need for love and connection. A baby must be held or it will die. This is a basic human need. But so many of us just settle for connection because love is too scary. Now, these are the first four basic needs, and one way or another, we must meet these needs. And if we don't meet them in ways that serve us, we meet them in ways that harm us. And this is where all the crazy behavior comes in. This is where all that crazy stuff that either we see other people do or we see ourselves do, and we think, what is going on? It's because it's meeting our needs. This is the root of addiction. This is the root of violence. One way or another, we must meet these needs to stay alive. But there's two more needs, the needs of the soul. These can be seen as needs of the soul. We must grow or we will die. We must grow physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. And the sixth need, the need to go beyond ourselves and contribute to others. This need can meet all the others. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is there are no good or bad needs. We are seeking balance in the needs. When one need gets too high, it can put all the others out of balance. Too much contribution, too much saving the world, we can neglect ourselves and get ill, or we could neglect our family. Not enough significance, and we don't know when to say, hey, I matter. And that is important for our relationships. So I'd like you to take a moment and think about which of these needs have stood out for you, which of these needs have resonated for you, because we like to pay attention because there can be conflicts in the needs. Too much, if we are valuing certainty and uncertainty, we can experience a push-pull between these two. As we go for certainty, we get bored with certainty, we go to uncertainty. This is how we change relationships. This is how we change jobs. Yeah, because things get too certain, we ping pong between the two. We go to the uncertainty. If someone's need for significance is out of whack, it's very hard to love somebody who's who values significance over love. It's hard to love somebody. That will cause a conflict and be a barrier to experiencing love, for deep, fulfilling, loving relationships. How are you meeting your needs? Are you making it easy or hard for yourself to meet your needs? How are you meeting them? We can meet the need for certainty by doing well at school, by getting a good job, or we can meet the need for certainty by never experiencing any challenge, avoiding all challenge, or hoarding money, okay? We can meet the need for uncertainty by meeting new people, trying new things, or we can meet the need for uncertainty through risky behavior, violence. How easy or hard are you making it? It can be as easy as watching a new film, taking a new route to work. You know, this stuff doesn't have to be complicated, and just paying attention to the possible ways, the small possible ways through the day you're already meeting the need and focusing on them. We can meet the need for significance by being the best at something or by being the worst at something. And so this framework is really handy for understanding our problems, those problems that you can't solve. Yeah. So no matter how hard you're trying, you can't solve the problem. We want to get really curious about that, because our problems benefit us. Our problems keep us safe. We focus on the surface so that we don't have to have a look at what's underneath, because that can feel very scary to see what's underneath. And, you know, I'll give you an example of my client with the tech problem. What was really going on for her with her tech problem? How did her tech problem benefit her? All behavior has a positive intent. Your brain's only job is to keep you alive. We've got a brain in our heads designed to keep us alive in the wild. Its only job is to keep you alive. And therefore, all behavior in some way is protecting you. Okay, even if it doesn't feel good, there's some reason, otherwise you wouldn't do it. It's really that simple. So for my client, how was her tech problem keeping her safe? Well, she couldn't take on those challenges that she wanted to take on in her business because she couldn't do the tech. Oh, I can't do the tech, so I can't do it. Really, what's going on underneath is that she was scared. She was scared to take on those challenges. And so through seeing how the tech problem was meeting her needs, we could get to what was underneath and start solving for that, because that's the real problem. That's the quality problem. The tech problem is the safe problem that we're going to get stuck with. It's never going to get solved. But if we address the real problem, which was the fear, that's going to feel really uncomfortable too. But it's a quality problem because you can move through it and get out the other end. Yeah, and get to a different place. Quality problems, we end up in a different place once we've solved them. So, what is the problem that you can't solve? You know, this relationship that you're working on that doesn't change. You know, you have to ask yourself, if it's not changing and you're not leaving, why? You have to ask yourself why. If you're stuck in a job you hate and you don't leave, what are the reasons you're giving? And get really curious. You can use this framework to understand how this is meeting your needs. And I'm going to give you an example of this, which will be very familiar to everybody. And it was something that I experienced in my life a lot. And it was the emotional state of overwhelm. It's so familiar to us all, isn't it? So many of us. And no, it was a place I resided in a lot of the time. And no matter how I changed my external environment, I still experienced it. So how was it meeting my needs? Well, how familiar was it? Very familiar. So there's my certainty. I knew exactly how to get into the state. I was very familiar with it. So that gives me certainty. Now, let's think about uncertainty. How much uncertainty was I getting? Well, when we think about the roller coaster of emotions that we experience when we're feeling overwhelmed, the fear, the anxiety, the worry, which would then tip into the resentment and anger at whatever it was that I felt was causing my overwhelm. You can imagine that cycle of emotions creating a lot of variety, low-grade variety. You know, things are getting a bit certain, a bit too samey. Well, I can easily whip up a bit of overwhelm and get plenty of variety in there. What about significance? How was overwhelm meeting my need for significance? Well, we live in a busyness hierarchy. Hustle is rewarded. Hustle is seen as a good trait. Working long hours, working hard is rewarded in our culture. The busier we are, the more important we are. I had an identity as a problem solver. And in order to have that identity, I needed problems to solve. So going looking for the problems, going looking for the trouble so I could solve it and I could have that identity as a problem solver. People would come to me with their problems and I would solve stuff. Yeah, that gave me a lot of significance. And then the final need, the need for love and connection. How was overwhelm meeting this need? Well, it was only when I got so overwhelmed that I was at the point of collapse that I would give myself permission to stop. I would crawl into bed and watch TV and eat ice cream. And in that way, I was connecting with myself. In that way, I was giving myself permission to nurture myself. So there is an example for you of how the need, how a really unpleasant state can meet your needs. And if it meets your need, you will go back there again and again and again. So understanding how this stuff is meeting our needs, and then actively going out and finding different ways to meet your needs. We do not work on, I must stop, I must change. We work on bringing in new things. Because when we bring in new things, when we add in, we're not trying to take away, when we add in, the urges to go to the old ways of doing it just naturally drop away. Yeah, and it's a much easier way of doing it. So what do we do with all of this? Well, the great news, obviously, is if you're creating the experiences that you don't want, you can create the experience that you do want. So it's time to hit the gym. Just like we work out our physical bodies, we want to work out our emotional bodies too. These are neural pathways. The neural pathway to the place you don't want to go is super strong. You go there all the time. It's really strong. It's a strong neural pathway. The neural pathway to the place that feels good might be underused. And so it's not so strong. And we just want to do some weightlifting and weaken this pathway and strengthen this one. So we do that by understanding how we're creating our emotions, why we're creating them, what the rules are we have around them. And then we can start to practice. Where focus goes, energy flows. So we've all heard of gratitude practices. There's a reason that gratitude practices are so popular, because this is practicing the emotion. And journals are great, but can you take it a step further? Can you practice a technique called flooding? So using music, using some music that resonates for you, using your senses, using photos to take you to a special memory, to a special place, using something of sentimental value, an object. And can you go back to a special memory and flood yourself, relive the moment and flood yourself with that memory? And can you practice that daily? If you have nothing to feel grateful for. You know, back in the day, I truly believed I had nothing to feel grateful for. It was such an underused neural pathway for me. I went to my heart. I went to a heart meditation. I would center on this incredible piece of equipment in my chest that I had not asked for. It had just been given to me. I did not have to earn it. It beats day and night in my chest, giving me life, asking for nothing. And I barely even notice it's there. So going to this miracle in my chest of feeling great gratitude for it, finding 3 very special memories and going to them. And from there, I was slowly able to, what was something lovely that had happened to me that day? Someone had made me a cup of tea. I'm English. Someone had made me a cup of tea. You know, those moments in the day where I noticed a nice view and I practiced it daily. And now, after years of practicing it, it's an automatic response to me. I've shifted from living in expectation, looking at everything I didn't have, expecting, believing I should have this, I should have that, expecting it, sitting in expectation. I shift that, such a draining energy to be in. I shifted to appreciation and the beauty of the world, the opportunities that are always out there available started to come flooding in. So if what I am talking about is resonating for you, the next step is for us to get on a phone call together. I offer a free session, a free 1-hour phone call. And what we will do in this call is we will look at where you're at now and what you've already tried. And then I'm going to explain to you why that isn't working. Now, this is so valuable. This is so worth your time, because when you understand why what you're doing isn't working, when the brain understands this, it stops trying. Okay? And then from here, we can make a plan of what it is you need to do to get where you want to go. And we do all of that in 1 hour, in one phone call. That might be all that you need. Yeah, but this session will give you a really good idea of what relationship coaching can do for you, how it works and what it can do for you. So if you are interested in that session, please get in touch with me. Just drop a comment into the chat right now, or if you're watching this on the replay, you can just respond back to this email and we can get you booked in for that session. And I want you to think about the value of this session, because this stuff can be scary for the brain. The brain is naturally resistant to us doing anything different, anything new. Okay, the brain wants us to stay in the same place, even if it's uncomfortable, because that's what's known. And so that's what's safe. Remember, that brain's designed to keep you alive in the wild, not designed for the modern day. So that brain is designed to think in probability. It's what's kept us alive for millennia. We base our decisions on the evidence of what has already been. Okay, so we don't eat that poisonous berry again. We don't go to that place where there may be tigers. That's what keeps us alive. But in the modern day world, when we base our decisions on probability, we carry on getting the same results. Basing your decisions on what you've already done will continue to get you the results that you currently have. In order to get different results, you have to do something different. And so We shift from thinking in probability to possibility. That is how we are able to start opening up and thinking about new ways of doing things, get creative and resourceful. It is possible. You can get where you want to go. It is possible. Yeah. And when we think like that, we start to think in a different way. Because I want you to understand, I want you to spend time thinking about what life would be like when you understand how you're creating your experience and why you're creating it. Understanding these two things gifts you the ability to choose how you want to think and feel, regardless of how someone else behaves. I really want you to take that in for a moment. Because when we gain the ability, when we truly take this into our being, and this is a reflex that we choose how we want to think and feel, regardless of how someone else is behaving, how the confidence we experience about taking back control of how we are showing up, the confidence floods into every other area of your life. It's hard to underestimate the difference it makes when we are in complete control of our experience. For me, the unintended consequences of working on my relationships were that I left a job I've been doing for 15 years and started my own business. When I went into relationship coaching, that was so far off my radar. It's hard to describe, really. We moved house. We even went and lived abroad. We took our 8-year-old daughter out of school in the UK and we moved to Italy, and we all went to live in Italy. Yeah, these were the unintended consequences for me, because when your relationships are strong and supportive, when you're in control of your experience and you're able to put your boundaries in from a place of love, not fear and anger, but from love, you make big, bold decisions. Yeah, when we make these shifts, it gives us a lot of confidence and we start to make big, bold decisions. Decisions are easy to make. They become much easier to make when we're in control of our experience. So if what I am talking about is resonating for you, let's chat. Book that session with me. And what I'm going to leave you with is I want you to stop thinking impossibility. I want you to believe that this could be available to you. Yeah, to just sit with the belief, it's possible. This is available to me. It is possible. And it may only be a 1% chance today. It may only feel like a 1% chance possibility. But focusing on that 1%, where focus goes, energy flows. Yeah, that's how we grow it. Because if you really sat and thought you might be at 70, 80%, but the brain is trained to just focus on that, that doubt, which may only be a small doubt if you stop to think about it. So for those of you watching live, I want to ask you, what changes do you think you will make as a result of watching this masterclass? I want you to right now think about what's the one change you can actually implement from the information you have received today. Because knowledge is only power if it's applied. And I want you to think, what could your relationships be like if you implemented these changes? What could your life look like? So thank you so much for spending your time with me, for spending this hour with me. It is a true honor and a privilege to go on this journey with you. And I hope it was useful. I hope you enjoyed it.